Miami is poised to become an international hub of fashion. With events like Miami Fashion Week putting the spotlight in the local industry, students at MDC Miami Fashion Institute have more opportunities than ever to succeed in this city.
Okay, so Sonia came to us and told us, guys, you have to finish and do a great job because you guys are gonna show your collection at Miami Fashion Week. I was mind blown. I could not believe. I was like, what?
So the weeks leading up to the show was very, very hectic. It was really crazy for me because I had sleepless nights. I would wake up at 7 after going to sleep at 5.
Last minute I had to, tack sleeves in, and I had a lot of finishes to do. I didn't have my fitting done well the day before because the models didn't show up.
If a MFI student is lucky enough to be part of a professional show, then they are lucky enough to be part of a professional show. It is all work.
Now, I'm not saying it came out perfect because a lot of them still at the last minute were like, oh my God, what am I doing? And
I am Rene Ruiz, Miami fashion designer and member of the board of advisors here at the Miami Fashion Institute. Showing your collection at a fashion show is essential for designers. Buyers are watching, the press and the social media can get your name out there. This is your chance. After months of work, days stretching into nights, everything has to be perfect, just for a few minutes on stage. Fashion shows are crucial, so having that opportunity as a student is priceless, something MFI first graduating class knows firsthand. But it isn't easy. Before you know it, the moment is over. Is it a hit or a miss? Let's find out. Welcome to Fashion Forward. Well, a fashion show is very important because this is what, when the designer shows his collection and his point of view to his clients. This way is when the designer has the opportunity also to put out there for the buyers, for the customers, for the press, for social media, your vision of what the trends are going to be or the trends that you think that are going to impact the industry.
Miami Fashion Week is typical fashion week where you have a series of designers show. It's really a show. People, when people say, oh, you should just do a fashion show, and I'm like, oh, it's not that simple. There's so much that goes on behind it. Miami Fashion Week with our 11 designers. It's really important that we showcase our talent, both local and international here in Miami.
So that's just a big opportunity, it's a big window for our students and for Miami to be showcased globally. But it was a huge opportunity for our students to be there because this is being shown throughout all Fashion Week. You know, there's New York Fashion Week, LA Fashion Week, Australia Fashion Week, Paris Fashion Week, and so on. And now there's Miami Fashion Week. So it's a big deal for our students to be there.
It was a big deal. We weren't sure if this was going to be the best place for them. It's a lot of pressure. The deadlines are the deadlines. They don't really move. They don't really shift. And that can be something that's a little bit intimidating for students, especially still in the birth stage of developing themselves.
We're preparing for Miami Fashion Week. This is my first time ever, and I'm really excited to show my 5 looks. So the steps in making a collection, I think the first step was inspiration. Because without inspiration, you cannot create a collection. When we had our inspiration, we had our muse, we had our story, we had to get our sketches after that process, eliminating the sketches to have your final 6 or so looks, and then finally we start to do their pattern making, which is the tough part.
So a little bit of the process in creating a collection is first you have to have a general idea and you have to do research to come up with what do you want your theme to be. And from that you first create like a mood board and do a research and put things together that you really like and would like to include or create something from it for your collection. And then you go to sketching hundreds of sketches so you come up with the perfect, 5 or 10 looks that you're gonna use.
I grew up in Brazil, and Brazil has the largest Japanese community outside of Japan. So I grew up like totally in love with Japanese culture, like watching cartoons, movies, going to Japan town. So I chose Tokyo as my inspiration. So another thing that I really thought it was important was to play with shapes and sizes. So when you see my garments, you will see I have like huge zippers, and the colors, I try to choose like the red and blue and red and yellow, that if you look at pictures from Tokyo at night, you see the colors yellow and red and black. So I chose those colors to be part of my collection.
Yes, I'm studying and work here, and it's an amazing experience. It's an amazing opportunity too, because I love what I'm doing. If I have to talk about Miami Fashion Week, it was a fantastic and amazing experience that I can describe with words.
Your fashion show is an opportunity to sort of cement your vision. You determine the music, you determine the ambiance, you determine everything about it, and in that moment you get to capture your audience and say, this is what I'm presenting to you. And if you do it really well, you know, yeah, you get the sales from it. And if you don't do it very well, it's kind of like, you know. And the clothes are really important, but then you get to add on those extra secondary pieces. Does this bring the audience to the right place? And what's really hard is they only had 5 looks go down the runway. So you really had maybe a minute and a half to really collectively get that audience in that space, and then someone else was coming up next. So it's really the chance for the designer to show exactly what world they were designing for.
My name is Elise Held. I am a stylist and a fashion director. It's so funny to call myself a stylist because I've been in the industry for 36 years. I was a fashion director for Levi Strauss, Lily Rubin, Burdines, iMagnet. I have been all over the world. I've been very, very lucky in my career. Perfect. And have been featured in a few films. So I'm very happy to share anything I can with my now home city of Miami, especially with Miami Fashion Institute.
Elise Held is a stylist. She's been in the city for a long time. She works between New York and Miami, and she brings a different point of view to a designer's collection, because sometimes when I work with stylists, it's very important. You see a look in a certain way, but then you bring a stylist like Elise, and they change things around. They put accessories that you might not think they actually will go with a collection or they will go with a look, but they do.
If you want to get a job in the business, then here's what to do. Buy a rolling rack and learn how to set it up yourself. Learn how to iron. Learn how to fix a crease. Learn the basics of the clothing and have respect for it. I know that that's what your chair is teaching over there because I've been there.
You're gonna have to trim some of this bulk out.
Yeah. I've seen her critiques. We've talked about this.
Everybody was in tears. People were crying, students were crying, they were exhausted. It's been a long 2-3 weeks.
I was backstage. I heard 2 students say, "This is so crazy back here." And I said, "What was the last show at New York Fashion Week that you worked on? Have you ever been at a professional show? You need to be blessed and lucky that you get to be here."
Fashion Forward will be right back.
Start your story at MDC. Be analytical. Be imaginative. Be a rising star. What's your story? Be MDC.
Miami Fashion Week has definitely elevated Miami as a city because for the first time last year, we were part of the CFDA official schedule for resort wear in the world. And this puts Miami in the likes of cities like New York, London, Paris, and Milan. There hasn't been any other fashion week in the world other than Miami that has been included in the last 15 years. And that has definitely put Miami in a different stratosphere because we are really getting up there with major cities that always had monopolized the fashion industry. We are, you know, it's like there's no Madrid Fashion Week, there's no Barcelona Fashion Week, no Sao Paulo. There's Miami Fashion Week.
So when the students found out that they had to showcase at Miami Fashion Week, when we had told them, they were very nervous at first because it's a big exposure. But they were excited. They were excited because for most of them it was their first fashion show. It's a big learning experience because you know how to deal with models, you know how to set up the racks, you know how to put accessories into your garment, and you have to meet certain expectations, not only for the school but for themselves as well as designers.
So the weeks leading up to the show was very, very hectic. It was really crazy for me because I had sleepless nights. I would wake up at 7 after going to sleep at 5, sewing and making patterns. And because thank God Asania gave us a chance to get our final looks, like she gave us another chance after another chance to get our final collection like really together. Because I was missing a lot of pieces. I was missing a few pants and different things like that. So that's what I was working on for those weeks leading up to the show.
So then the shoes go underneath the garment, okay? We need to make space. I know there's no space, but we need to clear out.
The amount of work that goes into creating a collection is immense because when you start seeing trends, you need to understand where that trend comes from. We don't just choose colors. Color is a very important aspect when you start designing. It's 70% of sales. That's how people buy products, because of color. So they need to understand first the whole story behind trends. Once they know their inspiration, their colors, their textiles, and their silhouettes, then they can start designing. Then it's a lot of trial and error. That's when they start grabbing the mannequins and they start draping over it, and they don't like how it fits, so they'll switch it a little bit over here. And it's a lot of trial and error.
And then from that, you start working on pattern making and trying samples to see if the actual design works. Once it works, you start working in the final piece with the final fabric because you don't want to mess it up and in the real fabric because that costs you money.
I mean, you guys are here till late tonight.
Well, this piece, this jacket that I'm wearing now, it always had a problem with the bottom with it, and then this piece was too small, so I had to cut it out and create a new piece, and you know, it was just so much, but I didn't think I was gonna make it at all for the Fashion Week.
We were so excited. We were all like so nervous at the same time because one thing is that you being outside and watching the whole thing happening, but what happens in the backstage is so crazy.
We're showing 5 pieces today.
They have no concept of what the real world work is. They think that because it's a little chaotic backstage that, oh, it's the fault of Miami Fashion Week. It's not. This is the nature of the beast. You show up with 200 people, it's not going to be like the Dalai Lama's being there. It's not going to be a Buddhist retreat. This is the nature of it. If you're not ready to work, to be humble, and to pay your dues, then you should find another thing to do. And how lucky are they all to be learning to do it? Because this is a very hard industry. And if you don't love it, and you don't have a passion for it, then you don't belong here.
Elise is, you know, she's a professional. She's always working. She's very involved. And I'm happy to work with her in many, many occasions.
I don't think anyone's ever ready. It's like parenthood. You know, you're not really ready till you're in it. I think that there's a tendency to get very micro with what you're doing, and so you have to constantly remind them it's a show and it's very big, and so there's certain things that they have to be cognizant of. details are important, making sure everything is nice and clean and finished. And then there's certain things that they can sort of relax on. And so sometimes they tend to focus on the things that they can relax on and not the things that are super important. Fittings, you know, we had 23 models at the end of it, 54 looks. And that was really difficult because, again, we were working with models that we were just meeting 2-3 days before the actual runway. So adjustments had to be made, things had to be fixed, things, you know, there was a lot going on.
I had to do some fittings the day of, which means I had more work to finish the day of. And it was chaotic. It's crazy. You don't know what's going on in the backstage. From the outside, everything looks pretty and like beautiful and glamorous, and you have no idea like how stressful the backstage is.
They came here every day and worked here for many long hours. We had the lab open till 10, and we had a lot of teachers assisting, a lot of volunteers that came to help them. So they weren't alone.
Do I think they were ready for it? I wouldn't say absolutely yes, but I do think that they were going to rise to the challenge.
Because I felt like I was so behind, but once I put everything together, I'm like, wait, you know, I have a chance, you know? It's still a possibility of making it to the show. And then lo and behold, I was able to get like a lot of stuff done right before the show. I'm excited right now. It's crazy. We're preparing for Miami Fashion Week. This is my first time ever, and I'm really excited to show my 5 looks for tonight.
Miami Fashion Week is the second most important fashion week in North America. And as they start growing and we want designers from all over the world.
A lot of them are just like, oh, I want this, I want that. I'm like, okay, so you have to go pick hair and makeup, you have to go pick music, you have to go pick this, lighting, stage, and they're like, oh no, never mind. We got so lucky with being able to do it at Miami Fashion Week because they really took a lot of pressure off, and we had a lot on us still. It took a lot of pressure off of us, but the students were really able to sort of get a full sense of it and rise to the challenge, which is great for them.
So when finally the garments come out in their own way, was wow, like a dream.
Everything is so fast. I had like 3 months to create a whole collection. It was shown like in 3 minutes, I guess. It was like this, but it was the best feeling I could have ever felt. It was just beautiful.
Fashion Forward will be right back.
Start your story at MDC. Be analytical. Be imaginative. Be a rising star. What's your story? Be MDC.
It's almost surreal, and that's what keeps us coming back to do it more and more. You feel like you're living in a different dimension. Everything seems to be moving at a different pace, and we all try to get as much done as we can, and then we're running like mad person, but it seems like it's never enough that moment. And then when you finally get out there and the first look goes down the runway, it's a different moment. And then when the last girl walks down the runway, it's a different feeling. It's just always it's a very exciting moment for a creative person and a designer.
When you do your own show, and you should, at some point, whether it's 10 looks, 6 looks, whatever, you are going to have full creative control, and you're going to see like how much pressure is on each of those decisions to be cohesive and correct. And that's going to be a big deal. But now you get to be a part of something bigger, and it takes a little bit of the pressure off of you, which is really nice.
We made it happen, and we were there in Miami Fashion Week, and it gives me the chills because I can't believe it happened, and I will be forever thankful for this great opportunity I had. I'm crying just let me just clean this. I really get emotional because it was like a dream come true, and every time I think of it, and my mom was here, so she could see me there too. It was just too perfect to be true.
And then at the end, you cry because all your adrenaline falls, and so you cry.
Once it was wrapped and done, after the euphoria kind of wears off, they're all in tears. And it's typical. I told them, like, you guys might be crying at the end. You know, you'll go home, and they go out with each other, and they go grab like the greasiest, fattiest meal they can find, and then they go home and sleep, and then, it starts all over the next day. And that's the hard part. It's like you do all this work for, 15 minutes of fame down the runway, and then it's done. So it's been great. Alicia's sort of like the best of both worlds, right? She's our lab assistant here at MFI. And when she started the program, she came from an alterations background, but she didn't know how to construct. And she's one of those students that takes absolute joy when she learns something new. So the collection part of it was really, really big for her. And it was a struggle, which was good because that's when the biggest growth happens, in that struggle. And she was able to put together a nice collection that spoke to the Arabic, spoke to her yogi background, and she was really proud of it at the end, and that was really impressive for me.
When you are doing the actual garment, or when I'm doing the actual garment, I just dream it. Yeah.
This was the first time I did a runway. It was pretty amazing, and it was at the Miami Fashion Week, so that was like, I don't think anyone does that at first time, so that was pretty special.
I was excited to show at Miami Fashion Week because that's a pretty big deal, to be finished with your second year of Miami Fashion Institute, and then having the show at Miami Fashion Week, which is a really, really great opportunity, because there's a lot of people that come, a lot of fashion bloggers, a lot of designers, a lot of people who have their eyes on Miami Fashion Week. Even if they're not there, they still see it online and different things like that. So it was a great opportunity to be able to show at Miami Fashion Week because we would never expect it, really. It was just a shock for us.
Well, that was an amazing treat and an amazing opportunity that the students at Miami Fashion Institute had to show in Miami Fashion Week, which is actually one of the second most important fashion week in North America. I think it was just such an incredible opportunity for the students because once you get into the real world, you're not always going to be having the opportunity of showing your collection or showing your designs. You probably are going to be working under a designer, working in a different company, just to get your foot in the door. And This way, the students got the taste of what it's going to be like when they get to present their own collection.
As a production, it was very, very well done. The lighting was fabulous. It was the real deal. There's no other question. It was the real deal. I was particularly taken with the few things that I did Instagram. There was a girl that did her whole collection in white, and it was the manipulation of the fabrics that she used that made it stand out. There was another girl, I mean, that was like the beginning, so it was produced fabulously.
They all did really great because I know the effort that was involved in it. I mean, Sylvia's work is always impeccable, but she really didn't want to take any risks in the beginning, and then she finally did, and she was so overjoyed with everything that she did. So it's just, I know where they're coming from, so for me, all their collections are great. I mean, it's all fantastic because I know it's like, it shows growth for them.
Your chairman, Asanya, is fantastic. She has a great pedigree in the fashion industry. We've gone, I see where her challenges are.
Fashion shows are stressful and chaotic, like you said, and it is the real world, so it's very good for our students to see how it is. They now have the experience to do their own fashion show if they decide to have another one with a new collection. It's important. It's super important to have that experience.
I'm sure the students learn this is something that they're never going to forget. This is something that they're going to take wherever they go. No one can take that moment away from them. That was an amazing moment for the students and for the school, because this is just going to make the school that much better. You know, when we can offer the new students that are coming in the years to come opportunities like this one, this is only going to make them better. It's only going to make them that much more competitive.